The Elim Church Rugby started with a group of people mostly attending St Matthew's Church and also working in Frost the Printers, which was across the way. Somehow they got hold of a copy of the Elim Evangel. Now the Elim Evangel in those days was full of George Jeffreys and his meetings that he was having in large halls all over the place, and people were being healed and people being saved and being filled with the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues, which was quite a new phenomenon, and they wouldn't have known about that otherwise. And so they started to go to those meetings, and it started with they then invited the pastor from Coventry, Pastor Evans, to come over, and he held weekly meetings in 1934. And from that they formed what they called an evangelistic band, and they started having open air services. One of those services in 1935 in Castle Street in Rugby Town Centre. My father, Arthur Orange, was working in a laundry, and he joined the service and gave his life to the Lord, and that's how he became part of it. The key players came from St Matthew's Church. There was three sisters, and one of the main ones was a lady called Irish Aston, and also Harold White. Most people in the church will remember Auntie Vi, as we called her. Well, her husband Harold, he attended St Matthew's, and he was one of the main ones as well. And so they were the original band that started going out, holding open airs, visiting George Jeffreys meetings, and being inspired to do those things. There wasn't any Pentecostal witness or anything in Rugby. There was an Elim Church in Coventry and in Leicester, so they would start to go and attend in them. And of course these Elim churches came out of the Welsh Revival, where a move of the Holy Spirit really was. And so they just had this hunger for God, and none of them were ministers, none of them had any theological training. They were just people who were working and just had a desire for God. The first Elim Church was planted in 1937 at the top of Windsor Street in Rugby. It came on 2 lorries from Yorkshire, and it was set on a permanent foundation, but the building was temporary. It's all made of asbestos, and by then Pastor Jack Newman was in Rugby and was the minister of this congregation of people. They had up to about 100, and so they got loans, and the offerings were £4 a week, and some of the members and attendees of the fellowship, they lent low interest loans so that they could purchase the building. The land was a parcel of land which was surrounded by Mills and Rockley's hoardings, and they could just rent the land that the building was on, and so that's how they got it, and they were able to club together. Remember, this was the 1930s, so it was the time of the Great Depression. Money was in very much short supply. There was no benefactors, there was no person who could sponsor this. They all paid out their own money and did so. Well, my father remembered going through the town one day and looking at the newspaper hoarding. It said Nudist Church for Rugby, and my dad thought, I wonder what that's about, only to discover that it was the church that he was involved in. What had happened, because they built the foundation first, they put a baptistry in there, and obviously neighbours and people were having a look, and the press must have been nosing around as well, and somebody said, oh, they practice nudism here. And this went right up to the council, and they called it a breeze of a story, and were investigating. They were also afraid that this was part of an American, what they call the hot gospelers, and the minister at the time, Jack Newman, had to explain both to the council and to the press that this wasn't the case, and to convince them that this was a genuine church which were going to run on genuine standards.